That creativity aspect. Because, yeah, when I started off, you did like the same line of code, you 10 lines. Yeah, too. I know, yeah. All right, let's get started. We've got what we need. We've got a lot to cover, so I figure we'll dive in. There'll be some stragglers coming, I'm sure, in the next few minutes. We've got hopefully enough seats. See how it works out. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. If you want to grab one if you want, I wasn't sure how full we do, so yeah, whatever works. So welcome. We have a good crowd today. We tried something new this month where we posted not only in our meetup, but also in Kathy's, so that way it would show up in the WordPress dashboard. I'm curious, how many of you found us because you saw it when you logged into WordPress? One, few, handful? Very good. Very cool. That's a nice feature they added. They just are weird about who gets to be in there, so we sort of circumvented that by copying our stuff into Kathy, so that worked. Does the job. So I'm Mickey Mellon. I run an agency just off the square called Green Mellon Media. We do lots of WordPress kind of stuff. We have a team. Most of whom are seen here. Ironically, the one that showed up is Matt, who's not seen there. So there's Matt, so there's our whole team. Everyone else is at the doctors and sick and at meetings and various other places. And then we have Rich and Evan that'll be speaking part of the slides today too, so they can introduce themselves quickly when they come up. So we have a lot to get through between what I want to say and what he wants to say and what he wants to say. Gutenberg's a big subject to tackle. We'll have more meetups about it, I'm sure, in the coming months. We'll try to get at least a good groundwork for you as we go. This group, of course, is called A Brighter Web. If you found it through Kathy's, you may not have seen that. We have a website at abrighterweb.com with some resources for you. We have the meetup listings on there, and that's where we'll put slides and videos and that kind of stuff. So all the slides from today will be up there probably this afternoon, so you don't need to write down. There'll be a lot of web addresses and stuff on here. You don't need to worry about jotting those down, so we'll have the slides for you. We have a Facebook group for those of you that want to hop in there. If you have questions in between meetups, you can ask them there. If you're looking to hire someone, you can post about that need. Questions about Gutenberg, whatever, so that's called Brighter Web as well. Lots of video tutorials on the site you can check out. We're trying to add more. I'll probably add some Gutenberg ones pretty soon. Lots of good tutorials. If you get stuck in something, hopefully your question can get answered. And then we have a podcast that comes out every week that I do that's really like a 5 or 10 minute, here's what Google's been up to this week. They added this thing, they changed this, you should do this. Just a real quick podcast. You can get that on iTunes or wherever you want to get it. And then my stuff, you can also find me at mickmel.com. That's where I post blog posts periodically for interesting things. Sign up to get emails there, that kind of stuff. A little more housekeeping, a few upcoming meetups coming. Let's see, Brad. February 21st?
No, January 31st. So
sorry. I meant that. Yes, I typed it wrong. Yes.
Next Wednesday night.
There you go. Cool. Next Wednesday night, it will be about when shortcodes don't work with Micah Wood. Micah, if you've not seen, is a brilliant developer, but he doesn't speak developer talk. He's able to get to a level we can understand because he's smarter than anyone I know. But that should be great. And then our developer one, Diana and Aaron, will be February 1st in here, customizing the WordPress admin for developers. So that'll be good. Anything you want to say? Cool. All right. February 13th, about 2 weeks. Oh, you want to say something?
No, that's all.
Okay. All right. There you go.
It'll be amazing.
All right.
Amazing. It's going to be this many people.
All right. Cool.
There.
All those developers. Nice.
People.
February 13th, Kathy, you have April coming to speak about overcoming your fear of sales.
Yeah, and that's about all I know about
Okay.
it.
And that should be interesting. We were talking to April the other day. If you know April, we said it's funny that she's overcoming her fear of anything because she doesn't seem to be afraid of anything. So it could be interesting. And then ours next month, of course, will be on the third Thursday like we normally are when there's not snow, talking fresh ideas to get your SEO improved and rank higher in Google. Google has some new things already this year, just in the last few weeks, that impact how things go. Use Google Search Console, which most of you should. If you don't know what it is, we'll talk about that. But they've revamped that, and it's a lot more useful. They have new ways to get your content into Google Assistant, into like Google Home. So if people ask questions, your stuff may come up, especially if you have recipes or podcasts, that kind of stuff. So we'll dig into ways to some of the basics of getting you to rank better in Google, but also some of the new stuff. So that'll be kind of fun. And then coming in, yes?
Also on February 1st is the Gainesville, the new.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, there are a lot of meetups around. I tried just to tackle the ones I knew that people were here for, but yes, there's so many meetups in the area. I don't try to cover them all anymore. Yes, the Gainesville one is getting going, and that one should be good. And I think
It will be good because I am the speaker.
Oh, and what are you talking about?
I think they said I'm talking about how meetups can help you grow.
All right, cool. There you go. They told you what to talk about. Good. And then coming April is WordCamp Atlanta. How many of you been to WordCamp in the past? So about half. So it is basically a weekend full of meetups. I mean, it's 48 sessions, so 12 different blocks, so there's four wide. Just talking about some super heavy developer stuff, some super light beginner stuff, some design, just all kinds of things going on there. Still looking for speakers. There's a thing on the site for a call for speakers. Aaron can answer questions if you have about that. Looking for volunteers. Daniel in the back, and if you have questions about volunteers, can help with that. Looking for sponsors. Kathy in the back can help with that. And then Brad and myself are kind of over the whole thing, so we can answer questions there too. But coming April 13th to 15th, you can go to the site. It's listed at the top to get email updates. It's $40 for the weekend, which is ridiculous. I mean, it costs a couple $100 each to be there. The sponsors cover that. You get a T-shirt, a couple lunches, all the sessions. It's amazing. So check that out. And then lastly, this space is not free to us. We pay money for this, except we don't, because yes, T-shirt in front for Christine and Mr. Brad in the back with GoWP. They're our sponsor for this. They pay the space, so it's free for all of us to use. So thank you to them for that. Tell us quickly, Brad, what is GoWP?
GoWP is a WordPress maintenance and support company, so we have low-cost monthly plans. Our bread and butter is really our white label option, so if you build websites for other people, you can outsource that support to us. We can take care of the small pesky stuff. You can focus on your projects.
Yes, a lot of people in here use them, and they're awesome company. They do great work. So thanks to them for that. And so so I wanted to hustle through that and get things started because there's a lot to cover in Gutenberg here. So for those not familiar, at a super high level, and Evan's going to kind of go through this, it's replacing the editor you've known in WordPress with something totally new and something theoretically much better, and we'll get into some of that stuff. So Evan's going to come up in a sec, sort of talk about the why of Gutenberg, why it matters, why you should care. I'll come back and talk through some basics, showing you how some of the blocks work and how they come together. So if you want to play with it, you'll have some idea of where you are. Rich will come up and give us a few code examples. It's really remarkably easy to do some basic code stuff in Gutenberg. We won't get too deep because I know a lot of you aren't coders, but at least you can see it's not super scary to do that. And then if somehow we have time left after that, we can get some discussion going, but we'll see how it goes from there. So Evan, if you want to come up and kick things off there. Yeah, that's right here.
All right. Hey, everybody. I kind of wanted to talk about like the why of Gutenberg. I don't think I have a slide for it. I work at an agency in Buckhead, Brownback Marketing. We do WordPress work. We do a lot of other stuff, but I'm like their WordPress, the chief WordPress guy, whatever you want to call it. And I've been watching for Gutenberg for a long time. I've been pretty excited about it. There's a lot of reasons why Gutenberg is coming. And I think most of the posts you read online, if you want to read about it, are going to talk about this third, true. So for better publishing experience, modern experience, to stay relevant, the one most people are talking about is to compete better with other publishing experiences like Wix, Squarespace, and Medium. Those I haven't used much, but apparently they have a really good experience when you're writing content for them. So a lot of people are saying, well, we're just trying to do that. But I think the more exciting part is the block level editing. We're kind of turning, WordPress has a lot of different ways that they're managing content historically, but we're trying to consolidate it now into what we're calling blocks. And I think it's really exciting because it's a term that the web development industry and design industry has been talking about for a number of years, called just modular development or modular websites. So I'm going to walk through a little bit like the problems that we've got now, and then how Gutenberg will solve them in 5 minutes or less. So we've got a standard WordPress post template. Like, hopefully has everyone at least used WordPress? We're all here. We probably are familiar with it enough. So you can make custom templates in WordPress, and they'll have a certain layout. And that was really exciting at first because you can make a whole bunch of cool looking pages that were different from each other, but they were also content managed, and you could change them through WordPress. So we had these post templates, and then we started making templates for every different type of page on our sites. We would have themes for sites that had 8 templates, and I mean, where does it go from there? We started having tons and tons of templates. There's a term going around called template bloat. We were kind of getting stuck in like, oh, and then responsive came out, and we have to make all of these templates responsive as well. It turns into like, I mean, it kind of gets exponential. So I mean, if you've ever done, I mean, when you make estimates, if you're going to build a website for somebody, you kind of gauge it on how many different templates you think they're going to need. Sometimes you build 13 templates for a site, and then you have to make them all responsive. And then some of them, change this one template to be different, and you end up getting files. Some of my favorite, like template 7b_3, or template no sidebar, secondary sidebar. But these file names are kind of telling about what we ended up with. It got really just too heavy. It wasn't working. It wasn't sustainable. So I think it's really good. We need to be working smarter instead of just harder. And I think along this same line, there is a paradigm shift. If you don't know what that means, has anyone seen this picture before? Most people kind of have. So we've got.
That's a paradigm.
Well, so that's one way to look at something. You see it as, we've got the little picture here. It looks kind of like a duck, right? If you flip it, just turn it around, it looks more like a rabbit. So we've got, it's the same image, just flipped back and forth. You see things differently, and you make different decisions because of that. So that's a whole different paradigm shift. You see things differently. So here's our current WordPress editor. You got the WYSIWYG, because it is exactly what you get, right?
Exactly.
And if you haven't seen it yet, the Gutenberg, it looks more like this. It's very similar, but it's very different too. You're gonna add blocks to your layout instead of just adding content to one big text area. You're gonna add things like images and quotes and embed videos and stuff. And each of those are going to be actually individual blocks of content, and you can drag them around, rearrange them pretty easily. You're not going to have to, copy a big, unordered list, and hopefully it keeps the same formatting as you paste it somewhere else, things like that. And I also wanted to, I'm excited for this. I think it's going to be really great for users and developers and designers. We're all going to be able to kind of use the same block language to talk about different blocks and how we're going to style them. And I wanted to go back in time a little bit, because a lot of people are Gutenberg is making this an issue for a lot of people that kind of think that, I'm not going to say WordPress is inventing this block system or the block paradigm or whatever. It's been around for a long time. This is my favorite quote about it. It came from Andy Clark in 2009. He said, "We're designing a system, not a page." So I think these blocks really fit in with a system. It's a content management system. It's not like a template management system. We want to define all these blocks, and then the websites should be able to just, we shouldn't be thinking in templates anymore. We just need to define all the blocks, and then as people create pages or posts, they can create the template on the fly kind of thing, or the layout, whatever you're going to call it. Template's kind of a weird word to use now. So then in 2012, we had another quote. These are screenshots from other slides and presentations. We're not designing pages, we're designing systems of components. That one was a really good one. 2012, 2013, Dave Rupert was rebuilding the Microsoft homepage. The important part, he was breaking the site into breaking large complex things into smaller, well-formed modules. So it's kind of the same mindset. We're going into blocks instead of modules. Blocks instead of pages and templates. It's a nice way just thinking of sites in little smaller pieces and components is a great way to go, I think. There's a really great article, 2014, from an agency called Newfangled Web. I think they're in North Carolina. They were talking about just kind of their design system. They weren't using WordPress. They had their own CMS that they built. But the ideas were the same, breaking out these templates into blocks. I think they called them modular content blocks. So you can create basic pages, sophisticated pages, complex pages, and it's all just created with the same system, and it's pretty easy. It's not each of those. 5 years ago in WordPress, you could make all these, and they'd each be their own template. They wouldn't be super flexible, but you could do it. And I won't read this one because it's a lot of words, but I like the mentality that it's just like Legos. Blocks are the Legos, and you can put them together. And we're going to have all these blocks are just Lego pieces, and you can build sites. and then you change your mind. Oh, we're going to put the red one over here and this one. Like, they're really easy and quick to rearrange and manage. And I don't know if anyone's heard of Brad Frost. He wrote a book called Atomic Design. He kind of had the same ideas, but he used different words. He was putting things, instead of in blocks, he called them atoms and molecules and organisms. And those you put all together and create templates, and those you're making pages from. I thought it was kind of an interesting, if that metaphor kind of helps you see it that way. I don't know, it went a little far for me. Like, I don't really need to worry about atoms when I'm building websites.
It's a very left brain thing for a right brain.
Right. So I thought it was cool. But he wrote this. I don't know if he wrote the book in 2013, but he started writing posts about it and giving talks, and then he wrote a book about it. I think it was a little bit later. And this one's a long one. It's a post on Alyssa Part, which is a big newsletter article collection of articles about web design and stuff like that. There was an important part in it, but it just looks like words to me right now. So yeah, buckets, a modular content allows you to add any content, text or media, and blocks. Just kind of talking about these same ideas in 2015, so it was a few years ago. And Gutenberg has been in development for about a year now. So I also wanted to show off a little bit, just kind of the workflow of how I build sites. We'll talk with the designers. So this is kind of what we would get from a designer. We take this, and so this is for a website, and it looks pretty blocky, you could say. It's pretty easy to distinguish where one piece of content begins and the next ends. That's just a kind of a style choice in this case. But we take the design, we print it, and I even just take scissors and I cut it up. And I stack up like similar looking modules we've been calling. We can call them blocks or components, whatever you want. Stack them all up and say, okay, this is a piece of content I need to build, and here's another piece of content I need to build. And I build this system, and then I let someone else kind of create the website with the system that we made. So I've been kind of using this mentality for a little while, and it's been very helpful to me. It's kind of been a learning curve for some, like the designers sometimes don't quite grasp it. They want each piece of content to be unique and different and variations, and it kind of makes it a headache to build sometimes. But if we can get people thinking in a block mentality, I think it will be better for designers and developers and users and business owners, because once we hand off a website, hopefully the client is able to then manage their website. If they've got to worry about 10 different templates and what happens with each one, and like it just gets to be too heavy, like the earlier slide was saying. So that's kind of what I've got in a nutshell, and you can look later on the slides, but I have a bunch of, most of these slides I've got links to the talks. Some of them are videos you can watch if you're interested, and then there's some Gutenberg resources that I thought were interesting. I think that's all I've got.
Cool.
Again, we'll have the slides up this afternoon, so you don't have to try to keep some of these long ones, but lots of good stuff in there. So again, that was kind of an overview of what it is. I want to give you guys some hands-on, just here's how it works. You can all go download Gutenberg today and put it on a test site. You can put it on your real site. It would probably be okay, but you really shouldn't do that. You can put it on a test site and play with it. How many of you played with Gutenberg at all yet? So what, maybe 10 of you so far? Okay, cool. So it's worth playing with if you have the ability and wherewithal to create a little test site for yourself, which depending on your host and stuff could be tricky, but I recommend doing it to set it up, install Gutenberg, play with it. But when you do, we'll kind of walk through what you can expect to see. So the WordPress editor today looks like this, just a big blob of text. You should all recognize that pretty well, I think. And Gutenberg looks not all that different, looks about like that. It just has a kind of encouragement to write a story with a snippet to start. Some of the same stuff along the right-hand side. You can see if you can compare, it's just tidied up. It's mostly the same things over there. But where it starts to get different is you click on, okay, I want to write my story. I'll click on that button, and things get a lot different. So you click on that, and you have a text box to start writing in. Well, Gutenberg gives you a lot more options. It does a good job of filtering those options down for you, because the first thing you may think is, I'm typing in there, I'm used to having 30 options at the top, and now I have like 7. Yeah. It's a whole lot different. This is because this is a text block. It starts with a text block. You don't have to start with text. And so it's only giving the options you need for text. You don't need to add images to text. Images is a different kind of block. So once you get, as Evan was saying, that block mentality, so okay, this is going to be text, this is going to be an image. So what we started with, if you just hit plus by default, is just a text block. But on the right-hand side, we have some of the stats and stuff, but there's a block option. We can go this side here, yeah. Block on the right. If we toggle that tab over, you get some options, more options for dealing with that text. Some of you I know, you can see some of this. There's the drop caps we talked about earlier. There's the option to turn drop caps on, leave the big capital letter to start. You drag the font size up and down, adjust the background color and the text color. Those of you that are designers or developers are probably thinking, oh crap, there's a big thing. My client can pick whatever color they want. And they can, in Gutenberg, they're well ahead of you on that. You can limit what colors show up here in the code very easily. So you can say, hey, just put the brand colors in there only so they can only pick the right shades. And I'm not going to get a lot into code, but I mean, talking code-wise, that's it. You do that kind of thing and say, they can use these 4 colors. So instead of all that, they get their 4 colors they can choose from. So I mean, it's knowing where to put the code and stuff certainly is a different animal, but it's not piles of code to do things like that. So let's put in some text into that box and change some colors. So me being the great designer, I did that. I wanted to point this out because Gutenberg also helps. It says, hey, it's warning me. It can see the contrast and saying, hey, this color combination may be hard for people to read. So it's going to try to help your clients there too a little bit. If you choose awful colors, it'll try to encourage them at least that it's wrong. You can certainly publish that if you want, but you shouldn't. So let's tidy up a bit. I'll change some colors, make it look at least better. I'm not sure it's good, but I wanted a horrible example, so at least be a better example there. But it's still just text. Where's everything else? I don't have any other options. I want to put some images in. I don't see images here anywhere. So this little button here is where everything kind of lives. And for now in Gutenberg, you're essentially adding blocks just going down the page. There'll be some layout options coming, but for now it's essentially add a picture, add text, add whatever. And so we'll just kind of work our way down the page and show you some of the things you can add. So if we click that little plus, we get a few things. If you hover over it, you get this little list on the side saying you want to add some paragraph text, an image, or a list. But if you click it, this is where everything kind of lives. This big box that pops up. You can see recent is highlighted. It shows some of the recent blocks we've used. We can click on blocks to see all the blocks available. Embeds to see some of those. You can embed videos and audio and stuff. And then saved blocks. We can save blocks. And we'll talk through all those. So let's work through some of these just so you see what they look like. We'll just kind of quickly go through all the blocks. Just again, to give you an idea, most of them are self-explanatory. In theory, it all should be. If you find something in there not self-explanatory, you have every right to go to GitHub and suggest some text changes to make it more clear for everyone else. There's no they in this. You can't say they're doing it wrong. It's we're doing it wrong or we're doing it right. So you can go in and give them your 2 cents and get things fixed. But things should be explanatory. But again, some are a little weird. So let's walk through how they look today. And again, there's going to be a bunch of updates before this is released, but it should be similar to this. So we'll remove the text one and put an image instead. So we add an image block over. It looks kind of like you expect. You want to upload an image or add an image from the media library. So just drag an image in there, and there's an image. I think Diana recognizes that one. Or, yeah. Renee does, yeah, sorry. Yeah, Renee. She's been playing on my Gutenberg test thing.
It did say drag and drop?
Yeah, you can either click to add from the media library, click to upload, or just drag it onto there. And you can do that in WordPress today. People don't know it, but just in the main editor, you can be typing along, just drag an image right on top of it. It'll drop it in there. So it makes it easy, and again, it makes it pretty clear on what's going on. We drop the image in, and again, we get some different options down the side now. We can put that alt text in there. We can choose the sizes, additional CSS, and a few more little formatting things at the top for the image. So that's cool. Let's delete that one, though, make a little gallery. We can do a little gallery instead. Same kind of idea, drag some images in. I didn't put all the steps in. It's not super complicated, but again, you get a few options here like columns. You can just drag this. Say I want 2 columns. So we'll kind of stack them a little bigger, or I want more columns and make them smaller. You can play with it and see it in real time as you make changes, what's going on. It makes it super easy. And again, in theory, we'd be adding all these on top of each other. I'm kind of erasing one to show the next, but if you're really building a page, you have the text and then the images, but keep it simple for now. We'll just do that. Let's see, we can add headings, like H1s, H2s, H3s, etc. You can drag the heading block over and put headings. You just want some larger text. You could do it with the text one, just make it big, but semantically and to make Google happy, you're usually best off to use proper headings. H1 at the top, H2s for smaller content. And what's neat here is, in theory, if you have an H3, it should be under an H2, under an H1. There's ways to do it. You don't have to do it that way, but this will help you if you do it wrong and encourage you that you did it wrong. The little I at the very top under new, there we go, that little guy, is information about the page. So if we put some headings in the wrong order and click that, it's going to warn us, hey, you have an H2 and then there's an H4 under it. Why would you do that? You can. It'll let you get away with it, but it's going to help you do that. And that info block is kind of cool too because it tells you how many words you use, how many headings, paragraphs, blocks, just some info about the page you're building. Again, it shows you the outline. Really, it's more so you can see the outline of your page at a quick glance, but also will correct you if you put things in a bad order. So that's an interesting one. There's a quote box you can drag over. So it's a quote. You just put a quote in whoever said the quote. There's actually two styles. If you add it, there's the quote, and then there's the quote style number 2, I think it's called, something like that. So you can click that and say, no, I want to look that way instead. So some simple quotes. Again, you can style things with CSS if you're so inclined. Your theme, in theory, should style things nicely for you, but you can drag the quote in if you want. Let me know if I'm going too fast on any of these. I think they're fairly straightforward, but please stop me. Lists, you can drag a list in. Evan was talking about sometimes it's tricky if you have a list in WordPress now and you copy and paste at the top, like you lose the bottom bullet, the top one gets wrapped in weird. Well, here, if it's a block, you can move the whole block below your text or above, and your list stays intact. And then you see at the top there, of course, you have the unordered list selected, for bullets, but you can click that one to get numbers instead and indent, just some of the basic list things. Nothing real complicated because you're just building a list. Along with images and the image gallery, there's also a cover image. So this is an image with some text on it. So really intended for the kind of the top of your page with some striking text over it. And it gives you options like having a fixed background for that effect, where the parallax, where the background kind of moves at a different speed than the page. You can just click a button for that and choose how dim the background should go. So you don't have to worry about going into Photoshop and putting a grayscale over it. You can say, make it a little darker, a little lighter, like that. So, I mean, they're trying to make it easy, and it seems to be coming along well here. Video, this is for video uploads. This is not for YouTube. So for the most part, I would say don't use this, but it's there if you want to. There could be some reasons to if you have something private maybe, but embedding is super easy from YouTube. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but there's video. Just, again, add the media library, click to upload it there, do what you want. Same with audio, looks almost identical, same kind of thing. Again, there's probably better ways to add audio, but if you want to add an audio file to your page, it's there for you. Pull quotes, just another way to put quotes. You can do it that way there. You can do a table. You can click to add a table. So if you want to show pricing or whatever, you can add a table. It puts in a 2x2 table, and then you can just kind of click the options in the top right and say add another row here, add a column, delete a row, whatever you want. Just expand the table to the size you need. Type in the stuff you want. You can add one for pre-formatted text. So it kind of keeps your text intact, keeps your tab spaces in there and some of that stuff if you want to have pre-formatted text. Often used for code, so I'm not sure. There's some discussions going on why they have this one. They have a separate one for code, which works identically, I think. They just call it code instead. I haven't seen. You guys know if there's a difference? Okay,
Highlight the code? Does it highlight the code?
I don't think it does. I mean, I put some in. That's what I thought. That maybe we get line numbers or something, but it doesn't. So maybe they're planning to add that, and that's why they split them. There's another one we'll talk about in a minute called verse for poetry that is identical to them again. So there's 3 different ones that do the same thing. But again, if you want to show code on your site, you use the code one, and that way it'll show it rather than execute it. So you want to show the code snippets.
I'm guessing if you copy that, it doesn't have all the HTML markup. Like if you paste it then into what you're working on.
Right, correct. Well, yeah, it is HTML markups. Yes, if you paste it into a code editor, then it would act as code and work the right way. Yeah, so right now, if you want to show code on WordPress, it does weird things behind the scenes to make it look funny, so that keeps it simpler for you. Custom HTML, this one I was talking beforehand about. Right now in WordPress, it's fun if you have your page going, you put in some custom HTML for whatever you need, and then you go to the visual editor and come back, it's destroyed. WordPress loves to kill that. So now, again, you have your custom HTML you need from your MailChimp embed or whatever it is, put it in here, and that block won't get touched. You can move it around and add your other stuff, and that one's not going to ever get wiped out by WordPress. So that's a great little one to have. The classic editor, this one's very important. This gives you basically the current classic editor in WordPress. Where this one matters is when you activate WordPress on your site, all of your existing pages basically become a single block of the classic editor with all your stuff in there. So that's why, in theory, the transition to Gutenberg should be pretty smooth, because the classic editor will take all your pictures and your short codes and all the stuff you have now, and it'll just be in there. If you want to leave it in the classic one, cool. If you want to work your way around and make blocks out of it instead, cool. You can do whatever you want. This gives me some hope that upgrades will be fairly smooth, and we'll talk more about that. And there's concerns, and we'll get into that. But
You're such an optimist.
I am. But things like this are at least thinking ahead toward that to try to help things be smooth. And if you want to make your own, you could. If you want to just use this, there will be a plugin you can get. There already is called Classic Editor that kind of hides Gutenberg, so you can just keep using the old way if you want, or if you're nervous about something. But that works pretty well. There's the verse you can add, which again is like the code and other one. I'm not sure why it's there. It's for poetry is the intent, but it's the same thing, so I don't quite understand why it's there. But it's there. You'll see that. I tried to do some Googling to teach myself with some of these where I couldn't really figure out why those 3 exist separately. So it is. A separator, which is literally just a separator like that, which again, as you're going down the page can be good. If you block of text, a separator, break things up. You want to add some white space, makes it easy way to do that. There's other, I think you have a block out there for like extra white space or something, right?
Yeah, that's space out content.
Yeah, space out. So there's other ways, and Rich will talk more about that, but it's, people are going to be writing lots of plugins that just add more blocks, and so he has one out there that adds more white space. You want to do that instead, but built in will be that nice little separator. We have the read more block. You can drop in there, kind of just like the read more option you have currently in WordPress. This one I love, the button. This is cool here. So you add the button in. You can type on the button itself to change what it says, put the address you want to go to down below, and then choose the colors for the text and the background in here, and you have a nice looking button without having to deal with shortcodes or CSS or any of that kind of stuff. For our clients, we do shortcodes usually. We say, hey, if you want to do a button, do bracket button. It works well enough, but they have to keep a cheat sheet of shortcodes, and it's clumsy. I don't like it. It's the best way to do it, I think.
Can
But
you hide that option as well from clients?
the option altogether?
Yeah, to do a button.
Can you just say hide certain blocks?
You can deregister any of the blocks.
Okay.
Awesome.
There you go. So yes, as a developer, you can say
I want to
you can deregister any block to make them not available to clients. So for us, we kind of like this, but I can see cases where you might not want it, and I'm sure you can choose which colors are available, that kind of thing. Text columns is another one that's exciting because this is kind of the first look at layouts. This is really the only layout piece you can do for now, but you can do a couple columns of text. And you have to have a slider. You can say, I want 3 columns, 4 columns, 5, however many you want. This is really the only layout for now, but I suspect soon, I don't know if you guys have any input or info on when more layout pieces are coming, but I suspect we'll soon have 2 columns that you can drag blocks into the columns. Any idea?
Soon.
Yeah. Before launch, you think?
Hopefully,
Yeah. So in theory, we'll have this where you do 2 columns of just layout and then drag blocks into those to have images next to text and stuff. But for now, this is really the only layout stuff you do. Everything else is just kind of stacking down the page. But it's getting there. So, and that one's kind of nice, works well. And again, simple options just to make more columns or fewer columns, works there. There's a shortcode widget, or shortcode block, excuse me, I'm still used to widgets, they're so similar. Shortcode block, if you have shortcodes on your site, you need to use them to input a form or whatever it is, you can just drag a shortcode block in and use it. Shortcodes also work in the normal text editor the very first block you use, you can put shortcodes in there and they work, and in the classic one. So lots of ways to use shortcodes that, in theory, shortcodes should go away. I mean, blocks should replace shortcodes. It shouldn't be add a shortcode, it should be we made a block for it. You can drag the block in instead and it looks better. But for a while, for some years, we're going to support shortcodes. So it does have good support for that for those that use it. Has a latest posts one. I didn't have any posts on the site, so it doesn't show up. It just kind of shows the most recent posts you have, and you can choose, ordered by this, what category should it pull from, how many items should it show, you can show the date, just some basic options. So on any page, you can say, hey, here's my most recent posts if you want to check them out. Has categories, very similar to the, there we go, the categories widget you have now. It's now a category block. So again, you drag that in and say, here's all the blog categories I have. And you can say, again, show us the drop down, show the post count, show the hierarchy indented if you want. You can show that anywhere you want. And then there's a million embeds. And I'm not going to go through any of them, but because they're all pretty straightforward. But it's the same kind of thing where you drag a YouTube embed in and then put in the URL of that video, and it'll embed the video for you. A lot of people don't realize you can do that in WordPress now. You can drag a YouTube link there and it'll turn into a video, but it's kind of hidden. So hopefully this will surface it more. People say, oh, I want to embed a YouTube video. Let me go to the embeds, and oh, there it is. It's almost a little clunkier than the current one, but it keeps it cleaner and easier to deal with for that. You also see now the last one we haven't talked about is saved, where you can save blocks and reuse them later.
Yes.
So yes, this is kind of cool. It's a little confusing, but the way they've done it, I think, is very good. So we'll go back to our quick brown fox thing. And if you have it blocked, you can click the options on the side and you get some different things. You can convert it to different kind of blocks or whatever. But there's convert to reusable block. So we're going to click on that to make this a reusable block we can use over and over again. So we click on that, and we get a few options below where we can edit and change the name of it. And this is just our name. The end user won't see it. It's just so we can name the block to use however we want to use it. Now we'll remove it from the page. We saved it, whatever. We'll take it off the page. And now if we go into our saved blocks, we'll see there's one called the Quick Brown Fox. It's there for us to add in. And so any page we're on, we can add that block back in. It's the same block in every case. And this is where it gets a little confusing, but it's really pretty cool. Is I can add this block in 4 different pages. And if I go edit that block at any page, it edits it on all 4 pages, which is intended. It's meant to be like, this is my profile. And so if I want to update how many kids I have or whatever, it'll update automatically. I have to go edit it 20 times. However, you can say detach from reusable block, which keeps it there, but makes it so it's not part of the reusable, and then you can change it. So you could maybe say, here's the cool button we're going to build for you guys. So add it to your page, detach it, and then name it for that page. You could use it that way. It's a little weird. And then you can also say delete reusable block, which will give you big warnings. If you'd say delete this, it's going to delete it from every instance of that out there. But it's pretty cool the way it works. I was listening to a podcast this morning. They said the one concern they have is, especially for sites that have a lot of authors, you're going to end up with probably chaos in that reusable block section as people save this one for later, save this one, and have a mess there. But I mean, that's kind of how we are with plugins and that sort of stuff anyhow. So hopefully it's more workflow than anything, but really pretty cool. So those are the basic blocks. If you go play with it, that's a very, very quick look at where things are today. But it's changing fast. So case in point, things slowed down around the holidays. They didn't do a lot of updates, but I think it was last week or maybe late the week before, version 2 of Gutenberg came out. It's like their, 9th release or something. And here's what they changed in it. They're changing stuff a lot. You're not intended to read this, and you can't. But each of these was actually something fairly important. They had things like don't set font family and pull quotes, add missing tooltip to icon buttons, allow text in button block to wrap. Just lots of things to make the experience a little bit better. And so lots of changes are happening. There's still a long way to go, but every little update you say, oh, it went from 1.9 to 2.0. Like it had a lot of things in there, most of which you won't notice. But now, again, like allow text and button block to wrap. It used to be if it got long, the button would kind of fall apart. Now we'll wrap down and do 2 lines in a button. It works well. And so they're working on that. I mean, every day they're knocking more of these off, and then every couple of weeks they put an update, and you get all those new updates for it. And hopefully it's getting closer and closer to actually being a viable product for us to all use. Theme layouts is something coming later. Evan kind of talked a little bit high level about that. There's going to be a few phases with that. Eventually, we'll have layouts on a page, kind of like Divi or Beaver Builder. We'll be able to set, layout columns and sort out that kind of stuff. And eventually, the thought is you'll be able to use it to do your whole theme. We'll show some resources that talk more about that, where you can build whole themes with blocks and even beyond themes. And it is intended to get crazy someday. We'll see where that ends up. But a quick example they showed is you'll be able to have this kind of thing, where you can have a layout and people say, okay, I want to click and add the image and add the title and add description, and it works pretty well there. And this is how I see themes going probably in the future, which could be beautiful. I've heard Kathy talk a number of times at her meetup. She used to have whole meetups I think about. I've downloaded a theme and installed it, and it looks nothing like the demo. And I think we've all been there. You have to go through 50 steps to do it. Well, it'd be cool if you can install a theme, and it's blank, but it says picture, text, headline, picture, recent post, and you just kind of click on each one and put your picture in and put your stuff in. It just magically becomes yours. There's some cool places themes can go. That's further away. I think we're probably a few years from that, but I'm excited about where that could get. And then the interaction between that and Divi and Beaver Builder could be interesting. But yeah, we'll see where that ends up. And that kind of leads to, will it break my site? And I say, probably not, but maybe. So, and we'll talk more about this after Rich is done. Hopefully we'll have some time for talking, because I don't know. We all have our opinions. We've all read, so I'm kind of curious what you guys think. There's a few things I like that have me feeling pretty good about it. One is the fact that you have that classic editor, so all your existing content should work just fine in that classic editor. Then the other one's with plugin compatibility. And so Daniel tried to scare me the other day. Yeah, you were excited to.
I was sharing information with you.
Yeah, it was good information. I'm sharing it with everyone else now, because I'm glad you did, because it's a great site. So a guy named Daniel Bachhuber has built a GitHub repository that's not really full of code. It's really just full of issues in there, saying, hey, here's all these plugins. Go try them out, see if they break or not. Try them on Gutenberg, see if they break. Why do they break? Let's figure out where things stand. And so it's a whole list basically like this, where it's green or red, and it's compatible or not. There's 52 plugins, I think, so far. And a lot of them you recognize, and he's adding more all the time. But over the course of the next few months, you'll be able to see what's good, what's bad, what breaks, what doesn't. And what makes me feel good about this list is there is a lot of red in there of things that break, but they're not bad breaks. Like Hello Dolly that we all have pre-installed, it's marked in red. It's broken, which means the words Hello Dolly don't, no one used it. But it's red and broken, so you say, oh gosh, it doesn't even work with Hello Dolly. Well, it means the words Hello Dolly don't show up. Your site doesn't break, it just doesn't show the words up there anymore. So broken is relative. All-in-one SEO is listed in here as broken, because they have a thing that says how many words you have in your post, and right now it just says 0. It can't count the words. Everything else works fine about it. Still does all the SEO for you, still does great, just can't count the words properly, and so they'll fix that. Even if they don't, it's not a big deal. Ninja Forms, Ninja Forms is listed here as broken. You go, gosh, I need Ninja Forms, it's broken. Well, not really. It's broken because normally Ninja Forms you can use the editor and pull a shortcode into your page. Well, you can't pull it from there anymore right now, at least. You have to go to the form and put the shortcode in. It all works fine. Your forms work. it sends them, everything works great, but it's just a little bit different, but it's broken. So again, as I go through most of the broken ones, it's not game stoppers for most of them. So I'm feeling pretty good, especially since they say it's coming in April. I suspect it'll probably be a little later than that. I think, yeah, June. I mean, we can all.
Well, the last I heard was June.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be longer. Really, the thing that makes me feel good about it is the folks behind it know there's tens of millions of sites running this. They're not going to run something and say, oh, it's only going to break 3 million sites. Like, no. They're going to wait till June or July or, we'll get things ironed out. So the fact that things aren't broken too bad, we have the editor, and I'm feeling pretty good about that. But we'll see. And again, hopefully in a little while here we can chat, and I'd love to get more of your input on some of that kind of stuff. But learning more about Gutenberg, some resources, I'll share a few here, and then we'll go a little further. This post, if you haven't read it, from Mateus, it's a wonderful post. He wrote actually back in October, but he's the one, if you watch the video from the State of the Word, that gave the live demo up there. You should watch that video as well. Talks about the ship Gutenberg and the ship of Theseus. The ship of Theseus, for those that don't know, it's like a thought experiment saying if there's a ship going across the ocean, you replace a board and another board. By the time it gets to the end, you've replaced all the boards. Is it still the same ship? Or is it a different ship? And there's no right answer. I mean, I've read great things that do both sides. But he's saying the same thing. He's saying we're trying to rebuild WordPress while we're sailing across the ocean. We're not going to you're not going to have old WordPress and now go download the new WordPress instead. It's all WordPress, and we're going to kind of rebuild Gutenberg into it as we sail. So kind of an interesting thing, but the post is phenomenal. It goes, 50 feet down that way. So you get into pictures and demos and good example. I pulled some of that for my screenshots there. So you should check that out. If you Google Gutenberg or the ship of Theseus, you'll pull it up, find that. This video from Morten Rain Hendrickson at WordCamp US, which I'm amazed. I realized WordCamp US was last month. Like, it feels like it was 6 months ago. It was last month.
No way.
A lot happened. I know, it's crazy. But it's a great video. It's like, 45 minutes, but he goes through, again, some examples and ideas, and he takes it to absurd levels in good ways, but it's still useful to understand his ideas and where it might go, and then also his thoughts on where it is today, and it's a good video to watch. And then GitHub. If you're not familiar with GitHub, it's where people collaborate on code, but you can also collaborate on thought, too. So you don't have to really know or understand GitHub. You can still get in there and talk to folks and read what people are saying. And preparing for this presentation, I spent a lot of time there just trying to get answers to things, but then as I got further, I was giving answers to things like, oh, I know that one. I know how the reusable blocks work now. Help someone answer that. So again, this is where I say, don't say they screwed up Gutenberg or they did something you didn't like. It's we. If you don't like the way something's going, allow sorting blocks to drag and drop. You think they should? How should it work? Go leave a comment. I mean, it's right there for you to talk about it. You may not be able to write the code, but say, gosh, that seems clumsy. Maybe if you did it this way, it'd be better. And hopefully then someone that can code will see that and say, I agree, and kind of make it happen. So lots of things you can do to help with it, or just at least sit back and see what people are thinking. I was talking with someone beforehand, even the smallest thing, you talk about drop caps. I mean, there's whole conversations about why it's good and bad, and, huge conversation about the smallest thing, because the smallest thing affects millions of people. So it'll matter quite a lot. So next, though, we're going to do a little bit of code, learning code for Gutenberg. So Rich is going to come and talk about that. He won't get too scary, but again, the beauty of Gutenberg is fairly easy to code, and we'll have deeper coding sessions with Diana and Aaron, I assume, probably in the coming months, or lots of places to learn, but some high-level stuff on how to do it. So welcome, Rich.
Hey everyone, my name is Rich Tabor, and I've been building blocks for a couple months now. I'm planning on building a commercial suite of blocks that people can use in different sort of collections. Think blocks for content marketing or blocks for landing pages. Basically, taking the type of functionality that you can see in these other types of builders that we have, like the Beaver builders and the divvies, and putting it into a format that everyone can use in core. So to start, I've got a couple development resources that I wanted to highlight that are pretty important. We have first the official Gutenberg block examples repository on GitHub. Each example is built using classic and modern JavaScript, which is important because the classic JavaScript examples are more basic, and it's where we can actually start to learn and see how the blocks are functioning. As soon as you move into the modern, things get a little bit more complicated. But the advantage there is that all the core Gutenberg blocks are written in modern JavaScript, so you have a reference to look at once you switch to using modern styles. I also have the Gutenberg boilerplate. The boilerplate is very similar to the Gutenberg examples repository, except for it's much more documented with inline comments throughout the entire block examples. And the third is the Gutenberg Handbook. It's on WordPress.org right now. The handbook has a lot of, still has quite a few missing components, and it needs a little bit more work before it's 100% up to speed. but it does have a good amount of resources for identifying different block API specifications and block terminology. So there are 4 different types of blocks. Okay, there are static content blocks, which generate static content. For example, I have a social sharing block right here, where you basically can turn on and off different icons to enable social sharing, but in essence, it's a static block. There's no editable content there. And there are dynamic content blocks, which are blocks that pull in dynamically generated content, typically from a server-side PHP component. For example, the recent or latest post block that's included in core Gutenberg. Then we have the cool blocks, the editable concept blocks. These blocks are essentially editable content. You can see there's a common naming strategy here. But see, the cool thing here is that you can, as a developer, I can add placeholders for whatever the block is. In the pricing table block I built here, you can name it, you can set your columns, you can set the price. These are all placeholder text to help guide the user in building a simple pricing table. And then you could resave, or you could save this block and put it on different pages. And you can detach it from a page to change the prices on different pages. There's a lot of really neat functionality that we can put into editable blocks like this.
Will there be multiple options included in that page?
Yes, like see, when you're building blocks, there are inspector controls and block controls. Block controls are, you see the 1 and 2 column feature or part at the very top right there. Those are block controls. I can set different numbers of controls and options within the editor there. Or if we opened up the inspector control of this block, which is that sidebar panel where you had the drop cap toggle and such, you can set colors, you can set fonts, you can really establish whatever type of options you want there as a developer. And that part of the block development process is not too complicated once you're familiar with it. Does that help?
I'll ask another question.
Yeah. And the last type of blocks are layout blocks. As Nikki mentioned, there are only very few of these blocks right now. As Gutenberg introduces nesting blocks, then that's where we'll start to really see layout blocks shine. I built a spacer block that you can click and drag to set the height of white space that you would like to add in your post. So when you're defining your block architecture, it's important to identify what type of blocks. So like we went through the 4 different blocks, and each block has a couple different nuances with it when you're deciding your architecture. Architecture consists of 2 primary functions. They're the edit function and the save function. The edit function is anything that you see within Gutenberg as you're editing a block. So when you're building a block, you want to add a resizable component like in my spacer block that you can drag up and down. That's all included in the edit function. The save function renders the block on the front end. So when you hit publish or save, whatever that block is set to save is what's going to display in the front end. So thinking back to my spacer block example, I have one simple div with a style, inline style with the set height defined by that resizable box. So you kind of can see how they kind of parallel with each other. The third key part to a block architecture is its attributes. The attributes provide structure data for blocks. You can really think of them very similar to how shortcodes have attributes. Like you can have a button shortcode with color red. It's kind of the same idea, except for now you're getting an entire user interface around that shortcode. So shortcodes are essentially going to, like what Vicky suggested, are going to probably fade out as soon as they can. As soon as people develop blocks to replace that functionality. And blocks are essentially UI shortcodes. So that's about it, just like kind of diving into Gutenberg block development. I tweet a lot about it, and I've been working on my project is GutenKit, and I blog a whole lot too about Gutenberg. That's the hot topic right now. So just catch me anywhere, and I'd be glad to answer any questions. Okay.
Cool. We've burned through a lot of that quick, which is good because I wanted to leave time to talk because, again, we've been studying this stuff a lot, but we don't have all the answers. I'm curious to hear other thoughts. So just a few more little things here to look at. So Gutenberg.courses, I just noticed this the other day. The course you can pay is $49. A whole bunch of video tutorials on how to start coding for Gutenberg. I thought that was kind of interesting. But the main thing you should take away is there's a plugin called Gutenberg. You can go install it on a test site and play with it. Like, there's nothing stopping you today. Again, I wouldn't do it on your live site. might be okay. But if you have the ability to set up a staging site or just a little test site or play site somewhere, do it. Install Gutenberg. Start playing with it today. Yeah, see where it takes you. So looking ahead, I want to start chatting about this because I don't have the answers to this section. This is where I want to get some input from y'all and see where we end up. So I think a big one I want to hear about, and I know a lot of you do, how will it affect my business? So in our case, we have really one developer. Is this going to mean we need more developers, or is it going to make our life easier? We need fewer developers. We're going to hire that way. I'm not sure where we need to go. So I'm kind of curious your thoughts on staffing or selling or pricing, or what do you guys been thinking about in these kind of regards? Like Aaron, what do you think is going to happen? I saw the two of you. You or Bill. I mean, you both are people I was thinking of that are probably chewing on these same kind of questions.
I don't think it's going to change anything.
All right, how so?
I think it's going to be in the aspect of I'm not going to change the way I sell my websites. I use Beaver Builder currently for content. I think maybe we'll change, and stop using that. But I don't think it's going to be as dramatic as people think.
Gotcha.
So I think it'll change everything.
All right, good. That's what I want to hear.
Not dramatic, but so it's changed, right? And you mentioned at the beginning, Google made some changes to their Search Console. Right. So we always have to adapt to change. We've got to look at it and see how it affects us. So it takes time. We've got to take time to learn this stuff and stay up on it. We were talking about how busy we are. Well, now add some time to learn all this. I think in my post I might use the term break. Sites may break. Many sites may break, I think is what I said. So I was kind of careful, but I wanted to get a point across. If on Monday the site's functioning and on Tuesday something has changed and a client recognizes it, and they contact us, then are they on maintenance with us, and are we going to change, correct that or address that? Covered under maintenance, no charge to them, or is this not covered? Are they not on maintenance? We've got to make that determination. If one plugin has a change on Tuesday morning and we've got it installed on 85 sites, that Tuesday morning is going to be pretty busy for us. Do we need to create some gaps in our scheduling of new projects for that time? If we're building sites now in the 4.9 platform and human error or a host or somebody flips a switch to 5.0 and something changes, whose fault is that? So we're just kind of looking at all that. It's change, and we're telling our clients, change is coming. We're on top of it. We've got a great community. We're going to be testing it, and we'll keep you informed as we get closer and closer.
Gotcha. How about like building sites and stuff? Do you see any changes or hiring or any bigger picture stuff?
So, so we use some of the page builders and stuff. And so, we're going to keep doing what we do because we got new projects that are coming on board every day. Now, we saw change in the Joomla environment 10 years ago before we moved over to WordPress. And the Joomla development community, I don't know if they stumbled. There's a lot of moving pieces we've seen here. And it created an opportunity. So WordPress was just a blogging platform. And at that time, it really started to emerge at the same time Joomla stumbled. And like that, WordPress took off. Joomla's, went into a decline, and we are where we are today. So it'll be interesting to see if there's a stumble, is that an opportunity for some other platform or system, or do we just stay? I was telling Brad, I think, I almost look at it like Windows 8. Windows 8 comes out, test, use it at your own risk, but when 8.1 comes out, it'll probably be okay. And we had to buy a new printer because Windows 8, it wasn't compatible. So, there are, I think, changes that are going to occur. We just need to have eyes and ears open and communicate with one another.
Cool.
Can I rebuttal?
Yeah. 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Nice. No, it might break things, but one of you said, I forget, it's not going to be, they're not going to break 3 million sites. I mean, there's going to be a fallback. No one was really happy with TinyMCE editor anyway. To me, all it is it's modifying content, which is relatively simple to reformat. I mean, obviously, if you have 10 years of blog posts and you're doing crazy stuff in there, I mean, and you have HTML in there, it's still going to be fine. I mean, I don't see it as that big a deal, personally. So that I don't really have a rebuttal, I guess. I just want to explain more.
Not to be too nice, I agree with both of you, though, in a way. Like, I don't think it's gonna be a big deal, but I think there are a lot of opportunities and
Training,
yeah,
any opportunities.
yeah, training. I want to bring to a little bit
That's what
too.
I was gonna say. Send an email to your clients. That's make
That's
sure that
critical.
you say, hey, this is coming, and before you upgrade, talk to me.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the most important
Yeah, I
thing.
was gonna say.
Right. Education.
In my experience, it's to that point, it's about being prepared. And so your clients depend on you to basically keep their stuff on it. That's the bottom line. With something like this, you've got to, in my opinion, look at a couple of key areas. One, just the basic, does my client's stuff still work, and how are we going to provide the services to your current staffing with the current resources we have for that hopefully short period of just, oh, that's broken. That's not working. And does our one developer below a day and a half figuring that out, right? Plug-in incompatibilities, new recipes for how something gets achieved because this particular plugin just doesn't function the way it was expected. Setting up your client expectations around that upfront is going to be critical in my experience on past projects. Another key area on the sales side is where you have to look at, it's a new tech, okay? How is this going to affect my current processes?
That's the big thing we're trying to think through.
How we develop it. You're not going to know off the bat that now this particular process that you're doing is all of a sudden significantly reduced by 50%. This other one is now doubled because you have to do whatever to get there, right?
Mm-hmm.
You won't know that going in, right? So scope and expectation management is key. We're in new territory. I think that's a very important thing to think through, to set expectations around, to make sure that you give yourself buffer around the things in your estimates, clear language about the assumptions that your estimates are based on relative to time. We base this estimate on these assumptions. We're expecting to spend X amount of hours on this and X amount of hours on that. So that later on, when you discover that one area that's going to come up where 10 hours is 40,
Right.
right? You can have that conversation without being locked into an expectation with your client that's unreasonable as you can.
That's a challenge we're going to have because we know how long it takes to build a site, and we do a lot of custom template page templates. We don't do Beaver Builder and stuff. We're more like Evan would say with custom templates. But we're probably going to do those through Gutenberg. It's going to be hard, especially for a while. We know how long it takes right now, but how long does it take
I
that?
have no idea.
Right. No idea until we work through it some. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's really important to set that up up front and make sure that you are documenting your understandings and those expectations, making them transparent with your clients.
Yeah. Agree. So they understand the change.
So that you have the platform for a negotiation. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And Chris?
From a breaking standpoint, you get the folks that are more into like if I'm using the right terms, I'm not developing like the hard coding, getting in there, doing the custom coding, they're gonna have more of an issue with stuff breaking than folks that are just plain vanilla, plain Jane,
I think in general, the more stuff you have, the more odds something will break. I mean, it's hard to say what will cause that, but yeah, I mean, the more vanilla your site, like I'd be pretty comfortable putting Gutenberg on my blog today because I have like 6 plugins on there and it's going to be fine. I won't yet, but I could. Versus other clients, that have 40 plugins and more custom code, and it's going to be interesting. Yeah.
Now, as far as future facing looking down the line, would you recommend kind of move towards more? Do these changes come often? Or what I'm trying to say is, do you think this should be like a red herring to try to go more towards keeping things simple, or still, okay, this is just gonna be like a once in a decade type of occurrence, you can still get in there and do all your custom stuff and can do a deep dive into the coding.
Gotcha. I wouldn't worry too much. I mean, you should keep it as simple as you can always anyhow, which sometimes as simple as you can is still wildly complex, and that's not going to change too much. You know, those plugins should respond well, and yeah, I mean, big changes like this won't come along, but changes within this will. You know, it's going to start with just blocks, and then it's going to have layouts and eventually themes, and the more complex you are, each big step is going to potentially be a problem. Steve? Yeah, I'll come back to that in a sec. Yeah,
I
sorry.
mean, I think based on what I'm hearing here, this is going to be a really tough pill to swallow for at least 12 months, maybe longer than that. I mean, this is going to be a lot of work for everybody, but I think optimistically, once we get past the initial hump of the first year, this is going to save everyone a lot of time, because I'm sure everyone is familiar with the, you know, I turned it over to my client and they broke something in the WYSIWYG. You know, they tried to add some text and make a color or a bulleted list and they broke something. Or they didn't intend to, but just the WYSIWYG, they think it's like Microsoft Word and it's, you know, something gets messed up in the HTML. So I think the block editor is going to, no, I'm talking about the WordPress HTML editor.
Right. Yeah.
You know, they think it's Microsoft Word. I think we're going to lose a lot of that. The blocks, just the ability to add a block for a text or a full quote or an image or something like that, I think is going to save a lot of client support time for everybody. And I think that large migrations of websites are going to be a lot easier now too, because you know, you got to think, okay, some people just want to make a code, a template, and the template is what you get, custom template. Other people want to do Beaver Builder and Divi. Other people want to build out a complex set of advanced custom fields that the client has to fill out. And when you want to migrate this to another developer, heaven forbid, or another theme, you know, you can't preserve a lot of this data structure. So I think what Gutenberg is going to do is going to make it so that all themes, whether you're making your own theme or whether you're using Divi or Beaver Builder, I think they're all going to adopt this block strategy. So you have the same data structure in use for every theme, which will make migrations way simpler. Save a lot of custom build.
Absolutely.
Let me come across.
Part here too,
Yep.
in that if you got to answer a main client question. I think it's very important to keep the client's perspective.
Okay.
For us, this is exciting because of all the possibilities. The client has one main question about this and any of these kinds of things. Why are you putting my business, my online business at risk? What's my benefit? Why do I care?
Yeah.
And so it's very important to really answer that question effectively up front and setting their expectations.
Yep. Agreed. Absolutely. All right.
I was just going to recommend that everybody needs to put up a page and optimize it for Atlanta, WordPress, Gutenberg, web design.
There you go. Because people will be searching for this.
Yeah.
Get ahead of Google here. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I'm not a developer, so this is not a developer answer. But I think this will eventually help all of our businesses, because I think this is something that, it's really a market share play. It's a macro play. I think the market share of WordPress isn't growing, but Squarespace is. And so I think once we capture that initial, you know, I need to start a photography site or a one-page site, like that actually helps all of our businesses because they're on our platform.
Yeah.
Right? So I think this is something that we all have to go through, but ultimately it may take years, but someone that said it's worth the initial pain, I think it is for the sake of our wallets.
Yeah.
Because if we can, you know, we can't move that market share take up, it's just, then we're on a downward trajectory, and then I think it gets worse.
Yeah.
For us, people go to Wix or whatever it is.
Pages.
So
Yeah, I like that. That's a good point. Marianne Gibson.
Well, I'm thinking, you have to look at this from our side and the customer side. You got two kinds of customers, one that says, oh, good, my site's up, fixed it if something's needed. Those people aren't gonna be breaking their sites. If they break, it'll be because we didn't do something. The ones that wanna do it themselves, they wanted to do it, now they've got a responsibility for learning Gutenberg. And I think we need to tell them ahead of time, this is coming, either you buckle down and learn it, don't call us when things go wrong if it's related to Gutenberg, because we're telling you now, you've got to learn it. There's probably a middle ground where you say, you're not on maintenance. If you want us to handle this, you need to get on maintenance for a while. There's some people that just don't want on maintenance. Well, sorry, then it's to you. But they're used to having what they've got for a certain price. So they could probably keep having what they want, what they have for a certain price, if it's fairly simple and they don't mess with it. That's what most users are expecting. Okay, I've got it up, I paid for it. If I'm on maintenance, I'm on maintenance. And if I don't ask for changes, I shouldn't be paying more for development. And they've got to decide if they're going to be in the one camp or the other camp. They learn Gutenberg, they do it themselves, or they pay a little more, at least till it gets stabilized. And they need to understand why that's the case. In the end, it's going to be better. It's going to be easier for us to do things for them. If they want changes, we can do it more cheaply after everything's stabilized, because we've got a lot of new tools. But in the meantime, you're in the same boat as everybody else. You pay for us to do it, or you learn it, then you do it.
Yeah, I think there's a slight difference in like not breaking and in like embracing and being able to use these new tools. Like they might have an old theme or some old setup that like it might not break, but then they start editing their stuff and they add new blocks or something, and like those don't look styled like the rest of their site, and they'll be like, what? Like, so there may have to be some conversation like, you can keep using it as is, but if you want us to like, retrofit this into your styles, then that's gonna, there's gonna be some cost associated.
I think it's important for you to make them understand. This is a major improvement in the WordPress environment, but it's not gonna be transparent.
And that's kind of like to Bill's point. We're trying to figure out how we want to train our clients on that. I figure there's really would be paid or free, and it could be group or individual. It gives us 4 different ways. We can say, hey, Bill, you're a great client of ours. We're going to come give you guys some free training. We'll say, Matt, you're a client of ours, but you're going to pay for it. Or say, all of our clients can come in, we'll give you some free training how to use it, or all of you come in and pay $100. There's so many different ways to train. We're still trying to think through that. And it probably will come down to like, okay, Bill's a huge paying client of ours, so certainly we'll give him a couple hours and get him up to speed. Matt's a good guy. He's not a big paying client. He can pay and we'll teach him. Or I think Kathy's going to be crazy busy with training. This thing.
Kathy needs to learn.
Yeah, you know how it all works now. Chris, you had something, then we'll come.
Yeah, I think that just goes back to what he said, she said, and definitely my man over there in the corner in the back, is that, and what you just said, as far as with clients, there's different styles of clients. Some folks when you have clients that are like bigger ticket clients, to them, it's not a big deal with running their business. But the ones that have like the smaller tier clients that are a little bit more hands-on, they just want simplicity. They don't want to get caught up into the weeds of what this thing is, how it works. And to what that guy said over there, it's hard to make the argument and make a sale to them. Hey, you got to learn this thing. There's going to be some growing pains. When every day they're bombarded with, have your website up in 24 hours. This is simple. This is simple. At the end of the day, they might just end up throwing their hands up like flip. I just want to pay. I got traffic coming in. I just need to send the traffic somewhere. I need my data, my content up there so that I can go ahead and convert. So my phone can ring or my cash register can sing. I don't want to learn all this new stuff. So if we pound on them, hey, I'm trying to learn this, they're just going to say, you know what, screw this. I'm just going to go with this simple stuff and I'm done with it. Because I don't have to, but those, developers and companies should have bigger clients. They can, they'll write a check to them. It's not that big of a deal. Thanks for letting us know. Take care of it. That's what you're here for. Boom, boom, boom.
And hopefully this will be the simple option eventually.
Clients, pounding them over the head and be like, listen, you have to do this because, again, every day, you're on YouTube, seeing those ads. It's simple, quick, get it in 24 hours. And it's going to be like, you know what? I'm done with it.
Yep. To that point.
Yeah.
Well, to that point, exactly, in the short term, I think some of these people, some of the people, maybe we built websites for them years ago and didn't charge them very much, and they don't have big budgets, and they've just been coasting along, updating plugins every 6 months or whatever. I think some of those people will be lost to the other platforms that are perhaps easier. In the long term, I think people who have very limited budgets may be lost to those platforms because it is so easy to do it on Squarespace or Wix or Medium. And I don't really have a problem with that because the people who come to me, most of them have decent budgets and want something custom. And so they pay me for that. And I think most of us are in that space where we're not looking for the low end of the market anymore. The effect is it's going to force us to, move up the food chain a little bit. That's my personal opinion.
Well, to Danny's point, WordPress.com could become a more reputable low-end option to compete with Squarespace. Right now, I think for a novice user, Squarespace probably is a little easier than WordPress.com. But with Gutenberg, that may flip, and then suddenly get a lot more on the platform. And then as they grow up, they want to stay there, and then they find the Dianas of the world.
Yeah, the interesting thing to me is I did a client asked me a question, and I did some research. And so I went out and I Googled Squarespace versus WordPress versus Wix. And I found a gazillion blog posts, not one of which compared to WordPress.com.
No.
They all compared to .org, which is a different animal. And obviously, the reason they do it is because it gives the other platforms an advantage.
Right.
But I was amazed. There's not a single post I could find out there that compares Wix to WordPress.com.
Interesting.
Maybe we all need to get busy and write those blog posts.
Yeah, there you go.
So during the ice storm, I was working from home like a lot of us, and I had the Golf Channel on, 24 hours a day. And GoDaddy's running a commercial, and it says, get your website built in 1 hour. And then they even have like some person that said, in 1 hour, they built my website. Now, I haven't seen what that is, and I haven't examined it. But that's a message that's out there going to millions and millions of people. And so I think to your point, there's platforms. There are platforms that are emerging and that are out there for people that say, I'm starting a landscaping business and I want a website in an hour. Done.
Every time you
For
play a
us
YouTube video,
to say,
there's a Wix commercial.
we're going to help you with the strategic plan to help you grow your business,
Right.
accomplish your
Exactly.
goals, and we're going to be with you in the long term. Then, so there is a little bit of
I
separation
don't want
there.
those people that only have $800 to build a website, I mean, I hate to sound snooty, but I really don't, because I can't do what I do best for those people.
Right. I need a little bit of room to work.
I mean, one suggestion I have is, reaching out to, your whole client history and suggesting that they install the classic editor plugin like today or tomorrow, like as soon as you can. Because if you have that installed and 5.0 comes up, everything should be fine. So that would be like the first step to triaging that situation,
Will
I
it
think.
default to the classic editor?
Right.
have
If
that
it's on and Gutenberg's on, then you'll see the
Okay.
regular.
That's good.
Mhm.
That's good to know.
So, and then you could reach out saying, install this plugin today, and then, reach out to me if you guys want to take the next step and, evolve your website if you're ready for that, or whenever you're ready.
That was kind of the point I wanted to make, actually. As far as like these people who you built a WordPress website for them 3 years ago and they haven't updated it since.
Right.
I was going to suggest maybe you just don't update, because it's not an update that's going to push automatically.
Right.
I mean, I think
It's 4.9 and change. Yeah,
you
stay there
have
forever.
to manually update it. I remember. But so with this classic plugin, would this make it so that you can still get the benefits of security updates to WordPress core while also not breaking anything?
Essentially, it's supposed to remove Gutenberg's editor and put the classic editor back. That's all it's supposed to do.
So that sounds to me like a perfect solution for the.
Yeah, I would still say testing, but,
Yeah.
Well, 4.9 is still going to get security
Right.
releases.
I was gonna say, they still go back to
We know that.
5 or something.
I mean, they always.
For 10 years.
Yeah. They go back, there's a security update, you see it's on 4.9 and 8, 7, I mean,
Right, they're still releasing updates on 4.7.
yeah.
I would just not update for these lower.
Yeah, stay in 4.9.13 when it comes, just stay on that track for as long as you want. Or, at this point though, that classic editor plugin's out today. Like you can go ahead and install it now. It won't do anything today, but that way you're already prepared. If you have to do it on dozens of sites, go ahead and start doing it now. And then when Gutenberg rolls out, it'll be smooth, and then you can work with people to, yeah.
Well, I just just think it's a good idea for businesses that do design development and all that stuff. Start talking to the clients about Gutenberg, but make sure you do it in a positive way. Because what they're gonna get from you is what's gonna be in the back of their head. So if you do like, oh God, Gutenberg's coming, they're gonna start afraid. If you start like, hey, I do exciting stuff and wait, and all this stuff, and start building up their mentality towards it, you could just be, doing that extra little bump to making them want to do something, when Gutenberg comes out. So, and especially for us in the WordPress community, to be very positive about it and embrace everything and just try to work with it as best we can, instead of it being a dread situation of a change, to be a positive situation that look at all the possibilities that are coming.
I personally want to hear what Brad's thought process is.
Oh, interesting, yeah.
What are you doing to ramp up for this?
Learning, education right now is really it. I mean, from a support standpoint, this has the potential to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does.
Or a windfall, depending on how you look at it.
Well,
A nightmare
which is also can be a nightmare.
Yeah.
You want control and support. You
Exactly.
don't want chaotic, and the workload doesn't need to all pile in at once. But yeah, right now it's just education. We have not. We're still probably a month away from really digging in and having a formal plan. So which is okay for right now. But yeah, I'm nervous, but we'll be fine.
Do you do updates like core and plugin updates for clients?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll probably stagger those, I would think, quite a bit.
You may get busier.
Yeah, we know we will be busier. It's just a matter of making sure we got processes tight on our side. So, but yeah, I don't have timelines for rolling things like when we will.
Well, because we don't even know when this is coming out, so yeah.
Well, I don't know if anyone's remarked yet, but I don't think the code base is still not final. So
Right.
documentation isn't even
Yeah.
complete yet. So it's hard to even get a full grasp on what it's going to be because.
Yeah, these are the blocks we have today,
Right.
but not the ones we have next week necessarily.
Right.
So.
Plus, with any major update on a plugin or a theme or WordPress, it's always better to wait for the .1 or .2 release. I mean, clients don't know that, but we do.
Yeah, you want to wait because there'll be plugins you're waiting to play catch up.
Yeah, and you
5.0 things out.
watch all the forums to see what happened, for all the people who didn't wait.
I'll get ethics.
Yeah.
I think this is a cycle that this industry goes through. And I'm older than most people here and much older than some of the people here. And I started doing websites in raw code, HTML. And then somebody would ask me, well, what's this going to cost me? And I'd say, $1,000. They'd say, oh, I can buy a front page, just do it myself. And pretty soon they'd be back.
Right.
They got these horrible sites. People would say to them, you need to get a real developer to do this instead of make so it doesn't look like your next door neighbor's kid. Next door neighbor's kid was the standard thing.
Yeah.
And they said, well, it's going to cost me $1,000 now. It might cost you $3,000, go get it done. And they all wander back to developers. And I think this, now it's Wix and Squarespace. So once a woman, a friend of mine said, oh, I did a really nice website. It's Wix. And I looked at it and went, so it's just a cycle that we go through, and it'll come around.
I think that's just getting better. I think you can go to Squarespace. I think a novice can go to Squarespace and build a beautiful site. It's just going to be from the template versus like what Bill said, like we do. And we're building a site for a client. We're 2 months before we even look at a design. Just getting the strategy figured out and the layout and SEO. And, so if that's what they need, that's great. If they just want something pretty that they can put a picture on, then Squarespace or WordPress.com will be just fine. It's kind of a different, but it works
There's a lot of
better.
people out there
They'll
who
be
will
back to
need
see
that.
Yeah, exactly. We need more. Keep, like Danny said, keep them on WordPress ideally. And that way, as they grow up and say, great, you need more, WordPress.com to be limited, cool. We'll export it to .org and build your features and think through strategy. And, keeping WordPress top of mind would be helpful.
I was just thinking with the discussion, there is a marked difference between building a website and building an online presence for a business. And Gutenberg is not designed for us as web designers. It is being designed for those people who just want a simple website.
if they're gonna be competing with the market share that are currently using Wix and Squarespace, that's not us. So as Diana was saying, our clients are going to remain unaffected because the majority of us are helping them build an online presence where we're developing a product that enhances their business strategy.
Yeah.
Someone who is in their 20s and 30s, maybe more so 20s, just wants to place a blog and sell stuff on Etsy, whatever. So I'm kind of leaning towards Aaron's point of view. I think it's much ado about nothing, and it's reminding me of Y2K.
I think our clients, even our clients will benefit though, because I go back to like when we do training with a client, Ashley builds this beautiful sheet with all the short codes they need to know. It would be so nice to get rid of that and just say, oh, there's this block called the Kathy Druin Contact Me block, and they can drag it in and makes a beautiful contact button wherever they want to put it. So I think it'll benefit to some degree, but yeah, they're aiming for Squarespace, not for
I'm mostly concerned
Diana,
with the controls we can put on.
correct. And it sounds like there's,
That we can lock them out of features and lock them out of doing certain.
Well, that's the thing with layouts. I know I don't know that you can yet at all, but you'll be able to build a layout with the stuff built in, and it's locked. Like they can't add more blocks to it. They can only add that picture and change that picture, change that text, but they can't drag in a new block if you choose to make a locked layout.
Right.
So there's
That's
great
why I went
potential
through the
for us
whole
there.
page builder thing with ACF, was so I could let them change all the content and they couldn't move anything.
correct. Yeah,
anywhere.
yes, that's huge. And again, we do that through custom templates, which is following his what he showed with
Right.
chaos. Yeah.
Feature, yeah, like each of those can be a block.
Yeah. Yeah, well, no, it comes blocks.
It's interesting you mentioned Y2K because I was an IT manager in Y2K.
Okay.
And it was not a big deal because we spent 5 years of the majority of our time preparing for that.
Right.
And it went, our users just never even knew it happened. I had a ulcer practically when Y2K plus one came.
Yeah.
But there's going to be developers in here that are prepared, and they're going to skate through this, and there's going to be others that aren't, and they may be doing something else.
Yeah.
And if you prepare, I think you'll be in good shape. I'm not a developer, fortunately.
Yeah, I was in IT for Y2K, and that's what I tell folks. It wasn't that it was a non-event. It's part of that maybe was that tons of people spent millions of hours preparing for it and making it a
A
non-event.
small number of people spend a boatload of time making sure everybody else never do it happen.
Right, that's where we are with this. Aaron.
I think it's going to be better for developers like us, because whoever that is in here. Right now, I'll write a plugin to do something like a staff page or something. It, with a custom post to add a new staff member, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And it's kind of locked in with the CSS, but by having Gutenberg, we're going to have all these resources where a color picker, is kind of built in. It's like a freebie, for a developer. I'm not going to have to write that, part of it. So it's going to save time, and it's going to be easier for me to take that module and reuse it over and over again. So I think it'll be really good. On another note, question: are they changing the name? Like in the aspect of like I have a Twitter plugin that works, and I want to turn it into a block. Do I call it Twitter feed Gutenberg? Or, is the name?
Good point,
like
yeah. Yeah, I would think the word Gutenberg would probably fade to some degree. It's just the WordPress editor.
Right.
But for that year, that magical year of fighting through it, it's going to be, which editor is it? Is it Gutenberg?
Yeah, because I want people to find it when they're like, I need this, in Gutenberg. For a little while, everyone will be looking for that.
Yeah, good point. I wonder if the word Gutenberg will even show up inside of WordPress 5.0.
I would think, I doubt it.
Yeah. Yeah, I doubt it too. Yeah, so that's a good point. Yeah, you got to be careful. But people will still be looking for, so what do you call your plugins then down the road? Right now you call it Gutenberg, you call them block plugins and leave it at that, or interesting angle.
The other place you can give feedback is if you do load the Gutenberg plugin on the menu over there, you hover over Gutenberg, it says feedback, and you press that, and there's a form you can fill out to give feedback there too.
Yeah, feedback is good. That's what they're looking for now. They're looking for people like all of us to be playing with it and breaking it and figuring out what's wrong and how we can lock it down and add stuff, and then people like Rich to go do it all. So,
I just had one thing. You know how you mentioned being prepared and how some developers won't be prepared and some will. Like in all these blocks, 95% of them are entirely written in JavaScript. So that's a whole different type of language that most WordPress developers are used to. We're more familiar and more comfortable with PHP, you know, and styling, you know, with an external style sheet and stuff. But everything that I did was all JavaScript. Only the dynamic content blocks are PHP side. So
that's where Matt Mullen told us a couple years ago to learn JavaScript deeply. And so
a lot of those are like using the REST APIs.
Right, exactly. Right. So.
Cool. We're about at time.
Can I point out one more thing?
Sure. That's fine.
Another resource to learn or talk about or watch this kind of unfolding is on the official WordPress Slack team has a channel about, I think it's just called Content Editor.
Core Editor.
Yeah, Core Editor. They have weekly meetings and discuss all this. You can see every single GitHub.
If you're familiar with Slack at all and use it, we use it internally. A lot of you probably do, but WordPress has a Slack for everyone, and you can go see them. Literally, all the core developers talking about what they're doing and pushing updates live. I like going in there on days when I know an update's coming out because I can watch them and be like, all right, we ready? You tested? You tested? Yeah, I'm going to push the button now. And like they hit it, and suddenly all my sites are updated. It's cool to see it in real time, even though I can't add to it. It's just neat to watch. So, but yeah, we're time. We'll hang around if you have more questions and stuff. And again, hop on our Facebook group and ask questions there. And yeah, we'll see you soon, I'm sure.
Thank you.